Just one game. It was the lowest.
One game out of 38? What is going on, guys? It is JJ here, back with a new video today once again, and today we're going to take a look at the worst team in Premier League history. Obviously this is going to be a very subjective video. I think it's going to be a pretty hilarious video. It is on TIFO Football. Obviously go subscribe. They have so much good content on their channel. They're absolutely amazing. But we are going to take a look at a brief history of the worst team in Premier League history. And you guys let me know if you guys, I actually don't know what team it'll be. I would say Sheffield this year because they haven't really done a whole lot. But they also just got a big dub over United, so maybe they won't be included in it. But obviously, let me know you guys' thoughts on this video down in the comments below, and let's get into it. As well, guys, you can find the original video just down in the description below.
In-depth football coverage from The Athletic is now just £1 per week. See the link in the description to sign up today.
Brief history of the worst team in Premier League history.
In 2007-2008, Derby County finished the season with 11 points, winning just one game. It was the lowest.
One game out of 38? One! Who did they beat? Whoever they beat deserved to be relegated with them.
Ever points tally in a Premier League season.
11
campaign
points.
tainted the careers of almost everybody who took part. It even included a sex tape scandal.
Damn, really?
But it began with an unlikely success and a rise conducted by one of the most divisive and polarising figures British football has known. The combustible manager, Billy Davies.
I don't know Billy Davies.
Davies arrived at Derby in 2006, tasked with taking the Championship club up into the Premier League within 3 years. The summer before he arrived, County had flirted with relegation to League One, finishing 20th. Nevertheless, Davies would need just one season to win a startling promotion. It was way ahead of schedule, a happy accident that saw an ill-prepared, helpless side stumble into English football's top flight and ultimately into notoriety.
So they had no money, they didn't have anything ready to go.
Surprise. One British bookmaker offered to pay out on Derby's relegation as early as September. The same company also offered odds of 33-1 that they'd go through the entire year without winning a game.
Lost that.
Now that didn't happen, but it very nearly did, and the warning signs of what was to come had been sounding quietly for some months. In February of 2007, Derby had actually been in first place and headed for automatic promotion. A late season stumble, however, partly caused by an internal row over promotion bonuses, saw the club sink back towards the pack and settle for a place in the playoffs. They would, of course,
they really went from
the game,
top around, what is it, they said February, then made it to the English Championship playoff, to then still make it through winning the playoff, which is highly unlikely.
On the pitch at Wembley, in what was really a moment of great personal triumph, the manager gave a strangely detached interview. He can be seen pumping his fists to the crowd as he describes what promotion means to the fans, and then he praises his players before his interviewer asks him about becoming a Premier League manager. His expression changes slightly, and his voice seems to crack. "Well, we'll enjoy tonight," he said, before darting off screen. Years later, Davies provided the context behind that interview, telling 442 magazine in 2017 that he'd heard prior to the playoff final that the club would be undergoing a change of ownership, as a result of which his position was under threat, regardless of whether promotion was achieved or not. But what is incontestably true, and what would so brutally expose Derby at the level above, was the hugely underwhelming transfer activity.
It's always the transfers that mess it up. Always is.
Joining them in the Premier League were Sunderland, who had finished top of the Championship, and Birmingham, who'd been runners-up. In preparation, the Black Cats would spend heavily on Craig Gordon, Kenwyne Jones, Kieran Richardson and Michael Chopra. Birmingham weren't quite so ambitious, but they still spent over £26 million. Fabrice Muamba was signed from Arsenal, Franck Querdreau from Fulham, and Gary O'Connor returned to the UK from Lokomotiv Moscow. They also made clever use of the loan market, giving Wilson Palacios his break in English football and striking a shrewd deal for young Mauro Zarate.
Oh, okay.
Sunderland would still struggle to 15th place and Birmingham would be relegated in 19th, but both gave themselves a fighting chance. Derby, by unflattering contrast, showed neither any ambition nor acumen in the market, and that was reflected in their finishing last by a staggering 24 points. We had an ageing mid-table championship.
24? 24 points? That's a tragedy. That is honestly so bad.
Davis told 442's Chris Flanagan in November 2017. I gave the board options for new signings and the board decided that they would pick the cheaper options. And that is certainly how it looks. Robert Earnshaw and Claude Davis were brought in from Norwich and Sheffield United respectively. Journeyman goalscorer Kenny Miller moved back south from Celtic, and American midfielder Benny Feilhaber joined from Hamburg in the Bundesliga. It left Derby still very much dependent on their Football League spine, and as a result, badly outmatched. Before the end of September, they would lose 4-0 at Spurs, 5-0 at Arsenal, and 6-0 at Liverpool. In November, they would suffer the ignominy of losing 5-0 to West Ham at Pride Park, which was part of a 5-game run without a single point or even a goal. It was bleak, and for Billy Davis, it would get even worse.
And they kept him in charge.
His information had been correct. The club was about to be sold. General Sports and Entertainment would eventually take control in January 2008, but by the previous October, the boardroom had already changed significantly. Former chairman Peter Gadsby had been replaced by Adam Pearson, who would be integral to that eventual sale, and who Davis believed was determined to replace him. The relationship was doomed, reaching the point of no return within a month. Following defeat to Chelsea at Pride Park and apparently believing his sacking to be imminent, Davis went public with his discontent at the post-game press conference. "The team is not good enough for the Premier League," he said. "That's no reflection or disrespect to the players. They know that. They're not good enough. To compete in this league and at this level," he continued, "you need investment in players. We have to invest in the playing staff. I haven't spoken to the new chairman in 3 weeks because he's a busy man who does things differently to the ex-chairman, but it would be nice to meet up soon."
Wow.
Now, the reception to that was and remains mixed. To some, it was a legitimate grievance. To others, a diversionary tactic deployed to disguise Davis's tactical limitations.
I mean, yeah, that could be true.
But whatever the case, he wouldn't have to wait long to hear from Pearson. Within 24 hours, Derby announced Davis's departure.
They sacked him. Yikes.
And 2 days later, they unveiled Paul Jewell as his replacement. Jewell was a survival specialist who'd built his reputation with Bradford City, then at Wigan Athletic. On paper, he was a smart appointment, and according to conspiratorial Davis, he was the manager that Adam Pearson had always intended to replace him with. Now, Jewell strongly denies that, but it didn't take him long to realise that he'd made a mistake. "I look back and realise I rushed into the job," he told the Yorkshire Post.
Because he found out the same thing, the players aren't ready.
That time damaged me. My stock was high, but Derby was a real struggle. True, Jewell inherited a group of players who had experienced the worst of Premier League life, but also a squad with a natural inferiority. Reflecting in 2018, centre-half Dean Leacock told the Daily Mail that he got a real anxiety just by looking at the fixture list at the beginning of the season. Andy Todd, the veteran defender, remembered that he could sense the fear among the players and that we were just there to make up the numbers that season.
Yikes.
Jewell tried. His trolley dash in the January transfer window produced a disparate group of reinforcements. 9 players arrived, including Robbie Savage, Danny Mills, Laurent Robert, and Roy Carroll, but without any cause for encouragement. Derby were a hopeless case. The sum total of Jewell's reign was a further 5 draws, a humiliating FA Cup exit at home to Championship side Preston North End, and 3 more games in which they'd concede 6 times versus Chelsea, Arsenal, and in what was probably the lowest of many low points,
Aston Villa!
In late March of 2008, an old homemade sex tape that featured Jewell somehow found its way into the hands of a British tabloid. Less than a week later, having suffered as many lows as is likely possible in a Premier League season, Derby's relegation was confirmed, and with it, their unfortunate legend. TIFO is delighted to be able to offer full...
That was absolutely amazing to watch. I did not expect the sex tape to end up in there as well. Though they really are the worst team in Premier League history. They were relegated by March? That's unbelievable. This is honestly, I love videos like this because it's so informative, tells me so much stuff, and I absolutely knew nothing. I feel like I remember somewhat just watching the Premier League and seeing that Chelsea victory, but I don't remember it for the life of me for some reason. I think I was still a little too young to remember stuff like that in the Premier League, but obviously, yikes. Derby County, you've gone through it, you know. I feel so bad for you. And then you actually got the chance of promotion. You know, you got there with that opportunity with Frank Lampard, Mason Mount, Fikayo Tomori. Then Frank left for Chelsea, and obviously that didn't work out. And yeah, it has not been great since. Obviously, I feel bad for Derby County having the worst Premier League team in history. The fact that there's a sex tape involved, a switching of managers, a switching of ownership, not good enough players who have anxiety to even play at the top level. It reminds me just, you know what, it doesn't even remind me of anybody else but Fulham. For some reason, Fulham this year reminds me of that. I thought they were going to get relegated as soon as they came up. They were just here with they wanted the money, that's it, and I feel like they were just making up the numbers. But turns out Sheffield are actually the worst team this year. So, obviously you guys gotta let me know your thoughts on the worst Premier League team in history down in the comments below. This has been unbelievable. But thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys for another video. Peace.